And one thing that is for sure preserved among us is Al-Qur'an. And so this is why there is such a great reward and a great virtue to learning Al-Qur'an. خَيْرُكُمْ مَنْ تَعَلَّمَ الْقُرْآنَ وَعَلَّمَهُ. The best among you is the one who learns the Qur'an and teaches it. So we started that last week, specifically Al-FaatiHah, but we didn't get to finish because I didn't introduce any of the concepts of tajweed. But I decided that what I'm going to do is, when the ayah is recited, I'm going to highlight, and for example, what would be considered the perfect tajweed in the recitation of the verse, and I'm going to model the recitation of the verse, and we're going to give the tafsir of it. Last week was more of an introduction. We talked about some judgments pertaining to the Qur'an. We said that it is forbidden to supposedly translate the Qur'an word for word into another language, because in the Qur'an it says it's revealed in a clear Arabic tongue, in a clear Arabic language, so Arabic is specified. And obviously when the Prophet ﷺ, he's reciting, for example, Al-Ikhlas, Qul huwa Allahu ahad, Allahu samad, or when he recites, for example, Qul ya ayyuhal kafirun, right? The people that are listening to him recite, they know Arabic. They know it's Arabic. So why is it then specified and spelled out in the Qur'an that the Qur'an is revealed in Arabic? And they can hear it, it's Arabic. So but why was it specifically mentioned? The scholars, they deduce from that it's forbidden to translate word for word. Also because the Qur'an is a miracle, and miracles cannot be imitated or duplicated. So what can be translated is the meaning of the ayah. So that's what the tafsir is. And so basically we're just translating the meaning of the ayah, and then also going further in the tafsir, explaining, for example, the reason that the ayah was revealed, the occasion that it occurred, etc. Things like that. So we began with mentioning A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, which we said by consensus is not part of the Qur'an. However, it is recommended for the Muslim who is about to recite for him to start with that. And we mentioned that the meaning is we seek refuge with Allah from the accursed Satan, from Iblis, who is Ar-Rajim. Ar-Rajim means that he is far from goodness, far from the mercy of Allah. Because Iblis, he is guaranteed to die as a non-Muslim, and he'll go to hell forever. And he knows that. He himself knows that. SubhanAllah, may Allah protect us from such a thing. Ameen. So, then we started with the first couple of ayat. We got to Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. So what we're going to do is, again, we're going to do call and response. I'm going to say the ayah, and then whoever wants to participate, then they repeat it. So we'll start with the isti'adha. We'll start with A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. So I'm going to say that first, and then you repeat. And then I'm going to say the basmala, and then you repeat. And then I'm going to say the alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, and then you repeat, etc. For whoever wants to participate in the recitation. And why? And originally the class is titled Tajweed, Recitation and Tafsir of Juz'u Am, which is the 30th Juz' of the Qur'an, which we are going to get into. But of course, because the obligation takes precedence over the recommendation, we're going over Al-FaatiHah, because in the Shafi'i school, it's an obligation to recite Al-FaatiHah in every rak'ah, in the prayer. And in order for your prayer to be valid according to a Shafi'i, you have to recite Al-FaatiHah, whether you're the Imam or the Ma'moom, or whether you're praying by yourself. So that's why. And we mostly follow a Shafi'i in the law. So on three, we'll start with the isti'adha. I'll do it, I'll say it once, or I'll say the isti'adha, and then you say it back. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Ameen. Now, Ameen also is not part of Al-FaatiHah, but it is highly recommended to say it whether you recite Al-FaatiHah or you hear someone else recite Al-FaatiHah, you say Ameen. Yani, whether you're in the prayer or outside of the prayer. So now we did the recitation. Now let's go to some tajweed. So first, and as a basic introduction, what is tajweed? What is this word? So linguistically, and it is the gerund or the masdar of jawwada yujawwidu, which is to do something well or to do something good, to do something expertly. This is linguistic, originally the Arabic language. But technically, in the jargon of the scholars of Islam, or within the context of the Islamic science of tajweed, it means to articulate the letters of the Quran properly, to the extent that you say the letter with the attribute that it has, right, without mispronouncing the letter, without straining too much, without like overexerting yourself, and without, for example, being too lax. So it means pronouncing every letter from its exit. It means reciting the attribute of the letter that comes with it, because it's possible for you to say the letter from its exit, but you don't come with the attribute, the attribute that's supposed to come with, and without any overstraining, overexertion, and without being too lax. So that's what technically tajweed is, and following those rules that are specific to the recitation of the Quran, which we'll talk about some of them specifically. The most famous ones, which are the judgments pertaining to the noon with a sukoon. But so that's basically tajweed. So it means pronouncing the letter correctly, saying the attribute of the letter that comes with it, doing the ghunna, doing the ikhfa in its place, doing the idgham in its place, doing the iqlab in its place. This is also tajweed, called tajweed. So let's start with the basmala, right? Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And so the tajweed here is, so in the first, Bismillahi. So when the ba, it comes from the lips, abit comes from the lips. And so then it's a ba with a kasra. So the proper pronunciation is B, not ba. You don't say Basmillahi, as some people do with accents. It's B, Bismillah. So to have the top tier tajweed, it's B, Bismillah. Not saying that if you say ba, for example, if you don't say like a complete kasra, not saying that would invalidate your recitation, but it won't be tajweed. Then the sin with a sukoon. So the sin is a letter that comes from the tip of the tongue, right near the front teeth. S, and it's low. The tongue is not close to the roof of the mouth. So there's a lot of space in the mouth, and that's why the sound is light, right? So when the tongue is not like crowding the space in your mouth, it'll sound light as opposed to thick. If your tongue is crowding the space in your mouth, then it'll be thick. The sound will be thick. And we're going to get to some of the examples, like, for example, like saw, the saw. It's not a light sound because the tongue is a little bit curved, so it's close to the roof of the mouth, so it restricts the air, so it sounds thick. But the seen, the tongue is flat. So it's as if like the tongue is flat. So it's similar sound to like the hissing of a serpent. S. So it's the tip of the tongue near the front teeth. Bismi. So the top tier tajweed would be to have that kind of, if you want to describe it as a whistle, but it's like the hissing sound. S. Bismi, so that would be the perfect tajweed. So then from Bismi, we transition into the name of Allah. So here, non-native Arabic speakers, it might take them some practice to familiarize themselves with the concept of the shadda. What is the shadda? Simply is a letter, it's two Arabic letters, smushed together. So that you're pronouncing one single letter with a stress. So it's a doubled letter. So here, in the name of Allah, we have the doubled lam. Bismillahi. So some people, they don't get that. They skip the shadda, and that would invalidate the recitation. So what's another part of top tier tajweed here? Is saying the name of Allah light, not with the thick sound. You don't say Bismillahi, you don't say Bismillahi, you say Bismillahi. So that lam is going to be, coming off the doubled lam into the elongation, it'll be light. You don't say Bismillahi. Just like you say, for example, Ma sha Allah. And when you have the kasra before it, you have it light. Bismillahi. And also, part of the tajweed is having this extension in the name of Allah. It's called mad tabi'i. The natural mad, or the essential mad, or the inherent mad. It's an elongation. What does it mean? 2 counts instead of 1. So not like how some ignorant people do, subhanallah, this is something bad, and it's a sin. They say, mashallah, which is cutting off the elongation in the name of Allah, perverting the name of Allah. They say, bismillah, this is haram. They say, inshallah, this is haram. They say, abdallah, this is haram. They say, alhamdulillah. That's not the name of Allah. It's Alhamdulillah. Ma sha Allah. Abdullah, for example. Because the word itself, it is composed of that elongation. So if you cut it, now you're not saying the word anymore. It's like taking a letter off. So this is, and for sure in Quran, this is not permissible. For the mad tabi'i, for the natural mad, you can't cut it less than 2 counts. It has to be 2 syllables. And how are the syllables measured? The scholars, they said either by putting in the thumb and unfolding it. So like 1, 2, for example, Bismillah, depending on like the speed of your recitation. For example, Ma sha Allah. You count the harakat, the elongation, by the movement of your finger. But it's basically just syllables. So, it's 2 syllables, not 1. So that's the tajweed there. Bismillah. And we said last time that we're doing the deep dive. It's not going to be just a superficial tajweed recitation and tafsir class. Now going For the next one, also a lot of non-native Arabic speakers have issues with it, and even some native Arabic speakers have issue with it. It's transitioning from the kasra, from the E sound of the ha in the name of Allah, Bismillahi, right? Transitioning into the ra with the shadda in the name Ar-Rahman. Bismillahir-Rahmani. There has to be a shadda. Why? Because the word Ar-Rahman, it starts with a ra, the word Rahman, the name of Allah, Rahman, starts with a ra, and it's at the beginning of it is the indefinite article al. This what we know as the al, like you say al-masjid, the masjid. You say, for example, al-bayt, the house, right? But when the letter is called a sun letter, when the word begins with a sun letter, and then you attach al to the beginning of it, then what happens? You don't say al-salam, you don't say al-salah, you don't say al-zakah, you don't say al-sawm, you don't say al-najm. You have to say as-salah, as-salam, az-zakah. So same thing with the ra. The ra is one of those sun letters. So you have to say Ar-Rahman. If you're to start with the word Ar-Rahman, if you're to begin your sentence with that word, the way you pronounce it is Ar-Rahman, because it's Al with Rahman. And so that lam gets turned into a ra, and that ra gets pronounced with a shadda. But when you transition from a word before it, you skip over the alif and you go straight to the ra with a shadda. So you don't say Bismillahi Ar-Rahman, you don't say that. You have to go straight from the kasra of the ha in the name of Allah into the ra of Ar-Rahman with a shadda. So the tajweed is Bismillahir-Rahman. So some people, they don't get that. And in Al-FaatiHah, if you don't get that shadda, the prayer won't be valid according to a Shafi'i. Then again the transition from the noon with a kasra, because it's Bismillahi Ar-Rahmani. So transitioning from the kasra on the noon to the ra with a shadda in Ar-Rahim, also some people have trouble with it, but that's the tajweed there. Now another tajweed. For the name Ar-Rahman, what do we have? After the ra, we have the ha. The ha, which is a letter that comes from the middle of the throat. So there's 6 throat letters. There's the hamza, which is at the bottom of the throat, yani the part of the throat closest to the chest. Then you have the ha, like the ha of hilal, and the ha of what else starts with the ha? I'm blanking on words. There's a hilal and hawa. No. Oh, hawa. Al-hawa. No. Al-hawa yu'mi wa yusim. No. So hawa, which means like desire, and it could also mean like a certain type of obsessive love. Hawa, it also could also mean falling. No. So that starts with the ha. But I'm looking for words that are like familiar. For example, the word hilal, everybody knows the word hilal. But anyway, that's the ha. So the hamza is first, then the ha is right above it. And then the ain. The ain. Like when you say, for example, Eid, the Eid. You don't say Eid. You don't say Eid. That's the hamza. You say Eid. Right, you say, that's the ain. Then after the ain is the ha. So the ha is right above the ain. So this ha is different than the ha. The ha of hilal, then you have the ha of halal. This is a very famous word, halal. You don't say ha, you don't say halal, you say halal. So the ha has to have that sound, especially when it has a sukoon on it. Has to have that sound. So when you say Ar-Rahman, you have to say with the sound of the ha. In order to have the tajweed, And you cannot say it like a kha, like some people do. They might say Ar-Rahman. But it's not Ar-Rahman, it's Ar-Rahman. And then the extension at the end. You can't say Ar-Rahman, you have to say Ar-Rahman. Then Ar-Rahim, same thing with the ha, and the extension at the end. Ar-Rahim. Good, that's the first ayah. Next ayah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. So here we have the ha. We have the name of Allah. Lillahi. You don't say Lillahi. Alhamdulillahi. Then the ba with the shadda. Rabb. Rabb. You don't say Rabbi. You don't say Rabbi. You say Rabbil Alameen. You have to have the shadda. Then the transition into Al-Alameen. Sukoon on the lam. Al. Here you make it apparent. Then you have the ain with the extension. Al-Alameen. And not Al-Alameen. Some people, they just say a straight up hamza. They just say Al-Alameen. They're not even saying the ain. So this would be, let's say, an invalid recitation. With the extension Al-Alameen and then extension at the end. That's the, now we're getting through a second ayah, that's the second ayah. Third ayah is like a repetition of the basmalah. Ar-Rahmani Ar-Rahim, so we covered that. Next is Maliki Yawmiddin. Now there's different recitations for this. We follow the recitation of Hafs an Asim. So from Hafs, from the route of Hafs, which is the person's name, from Asim. So this is one of the confirmed recitations. As you know, there's a total of 14 recitations, 10 of them by tawatir, 4 of them that are considered shadh. But anyway, the point is that this is one of the valid recitations, one that mostly all Muslims recite. But there's other well-known recitations of Al-FaatiHah where they don't extend Maliki. They don't say Maliki, they say Maliki, which is a valid recitation. But there's changes that have to be made to some later parts of it. But today we're only going to focus on Maliki, the one that has the extension. So after the meme, there's an extension of what 2 counts, not more. You don't say Maliki. You don't, because that's adding now. That's adding letters to the Quran. So you do Maliki, 2 counts. Then Yawmiddin, Yawmiddin. So here we have a shadda with the dal at the end. So you have to make sure that you do the emphasis, the doubling of the letter. You cannot say Yawmiddin. You can't say Yawmiddin because you're missing a letter. You're taking off a letter. You have to say Yawmiddin and then the extension at the end. Then we have Iyyaka na'budu wa Iyyaka nasta'een. So here, a couple things to focus on. First, Hamza with the kasra. E, not e. Even though if you say it's not going to invalidate, but it's just not tajweed. E. Then you have a ya with a shadda. So, and no gunna. No gunna. It's just a double letter. Iyyaka. And you cannot say, without a shadda, you cannot say iyaka. You cannot say iyaka with 1 ya. It has to be 2 ya or yani. Yani 2 ya smushed together to make 1 ya with a shadda. Iyaka. And then you have the extension. Iyaka. Na'budu. So you gotta make sure you do the ain. You gotta make sure you say the ain. You can't say na'budu without saying the ain. You have to say it. Na'budu. And to practice on that, you can practice on that. And that's what the scholars of tajweed, they said, the only way to perfect your tajweed is to practice, and to recite over and over. And so you can, and you practice, what I mean is articulating the letters from their exits. Because then once you practice it and do it over and over and over, it becomes like muscle memory. You naturally put your tongue in the right place, so you don't have to struggle to get the right articulation point placement when you're saying the letters. Iyyaka na'budu. So here there's no extension. Na'budu, syllable, syllable, syllable. Na'budu, not how some people say na'budu. They say na'budu, which is they extend at the end, that's adding a letter, that's invalid. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'een. So here the word nasta'een, sin, ta, ain. Not a ta. Some people they say nasta. but it's not nasta. It's nasta. Nasta'een, and you have to have the ain with the extension at the end. Then you have ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. So here you have the first ihdina, that's one word, but then after it is a word that starts with al, but also one of those shamsi letters. So you have to have the sad with a shadda, so it cuts off the extension of ihdina. Originally, the word is ihdina with an extension. But when you put it together with as-sirat, the extension is cut off and you transition directly from a noon with a fatha into a sad with a shadda. Ihdina as-sirat. That's all you gotta do. And you have to say the sad with the thick sound. Now, that squeaky type of whistling sound is just a natural result of the position of your tongue and the tip of your tongue, how it is close to your two bottom front teeth. Because that's the articulation point of the sad. The tongue is taking up space in the mouth, so constricting the airflow, and the tip of the tongue is near the two bottom front teeth, and you're just pushing out the air. Saw, saw, saw. And depending on, for example, how your teeth are, for example, you might have, let's say, no gaps in your teeth, so since the air would be constricted more, so to be a sharper type of whistle. But the whistling sound that comes with the sad, it does not involve the lips at all, because the sad is not a lip letter. The sad is a tongue letter. It's from the tip of the tongue, but with the back of the tongue slightly close to the roof of the mouth. That's why it makes a thick sound, because it's close. It's like as if your mouth is crowded. Saw, as opposed to sa. Sa is the scene. Saw is the sad. So that has to be doubled, and when you double, a strong letter like that is gonna make the thick sounding sound even more. So it's ihdina sirata. That's the sad. Now that part, some people they struggle with it because they're not able to distinguish between the sin and the sad in pronunciation. So they might say ihdina sirata, even though that's a valid recitation, but that's not the one we're going with. And then because there's a valid recitation where you can say Maliki Yawmiddin, and then when it comes to Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim, you say it with a sin. Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. But then when there's a meme with a sukun at the end, you have to extend two syllables with a waw with a sukun. So you say Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim, sirat al-ladhina an'amta alayhimu غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين, when you're continuing. If you stop on the meme with the sukun, that's fine. But so that recitation has a scene on as-sirat, which is valid. But we're going by the one with as-sad. So you say ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. That ta is one of those strong letters too. But it's not a letter of pushing out air. It's more of a striking letter. So it's basically the tip of your tongue and the front surface of your tongue. Let's say this was the tongue, pressing up against the back of the two front teeth. Let's say these are the two front teeth, the upper two front teeth. So behind them, you put this part of the tongue, and then you kind of hit it off those back teeth. Thaw, thaw, thaw. With the back of the tongue, or the tongue itself, taking up space in the mouth, so it sounds a thick sound, as opposed to tat, tat. Tat is lighter, tat, tat. Thaw, thaw. So it's stronger, thicker. This is the thaw at the end of as-sirat. Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. Then you go to the lam with the sukun. Then you go to the meme with the sin al-mustaqim. And so some people, they also get it mixed up here. Instead of doing a sin, they do a sad. They say al-mustaqim, which is not correct. It's changing now. Then you have the qaf. Some people, they can't say the qaf because in their original language, it doesn't exist. But all you gotta do is just practice. So basically the qaf is a tongue letter. It's not a throat letter, but it's at the part of the tongue that's closest to the throat. But so what happens is the tongue, that part of the tongue elevates, and you know the little dangly thing you have in your mouth, that part of the tongue, it clicks off of that thing. Qa, qa, qa. That's what the qaf is. Qa, qa. As opposed to ka, ka. That's a kaf. It's a little bit more ahead of the qaf. The qaf is like the furthest part in the tongue and it closest to the throat. The kaf is a little bit right in front of it, so it's softer. Ka. And the tongue is flat and not taking up too much space, so it's lighter. Ka, ak, ak. That's the kaf. The qaf, aqo, aqo, aqo. So that's not a throat sound. That's just the tongue clicking off the upper palate. So when you have a qaf, which is a strong letter, with a kasra, now that strength gets a little bit watered down, and you have to have the kasra sound with an extension. Al-mustaqim, al-mustaqim, al-mustaqim. That's the qaf. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم. الذين. This one, I always emphasize this one because I've heard it a lot when I was first learning, when I first, in my early days, when I was a new Muslim, going to different places, being around different Muslims from different countries, etc., different backgrounds. But I would always hear a lot of Muslims when they recite, and they're reciting FaatiHah, or even just other than FaatiHah, but containing that same word or that same letter, I always used to hear like a Z sound. They would say al-lazina. When it's al-ladhina, is the dhal, right? The dhal is not a buzzing letter. It is from the tongue, it is from the tip of the tongue. So is the zai, which is the Z sounding one. And the zai is grouped together with the sin and the sad. But the dhal is grouped like almost in the same category as the tha, yani from the tip of the tongue. But it's just with the dhal, the tongue is more inserted inside of the mouth. So it's from the tip of the tongue, the upper two front teeth, pushing out the sound, not bouncing it and not buzzing it. Dhal. Just like, right, in English, when you say the word the, this is the house, for example. You don't say this is the house. It's not the house, it's the house. So that pronunciation of the is the exact pronunciation of the that. It's not a Z sounding sound. You don't say the house, you say the house. So you say alladhina, sirat alladhina. You cannot say al-lazina because if you switch the dal to a zai, now you're changing the word, and in the Arabic language, there is no such word. The word al-lazina, it doesn't have a meaning in Arabic. It's just, I guess, a grouping of sounds. So that one is one that, and we need to be aware and careful of, because if someone recites al-lazina in al-FaatiHah, their FaatiHah won't be valid, and then their prayer won't be valid. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم. So here, especially for the non-native Arabic speaker who doesn't have this ayn letter in their language, here they might miss an ayn. So first you have an, which is a hamza and a noon. The noon has a sukoon. And then after the noon with a sukoon is a ayn. So what is the rule of tajweed here? Whenever there is a throat letter, after a noon with a sukoon, you pronounce the noon regular. You don't do ikhfa, you don't do idgham, you don't do ghunna, you don't do iqlab. You just pronounce the noon as it is, the noon with a sukoon. An. An'amta. So then you have the ayn, you have to say it and without extending. An'amta. صراط الذين أنعمت. So some people when they say an'amta, they might say an'amta. So they might switch it and say an ayn and then a hamza. But it's a hamza, then an ayn. An'amta. And sometimes they do two hamzas in a row. They say an'amta, which would be wrong. صراط الذين أنعمت, then another ayn. عليهم, عليهم. So here you have after the lam, what do you have? You have a ya with a sukoon. And before it, before the ya with a sukoon, there came a FaatiHah. That FaatiHah now makes it so that you have to do something called med lean. So what does it mean? It means you have to hold it for 2 counts. 2 counts. Alayhim, alayhim. You can't skip over it. But yeah, it's very, very difficult to skip over it. Because the natural way of pronouncing the ya with the sukoon before having a FaatiHah is you naturally say alayhim, like unless somebody like cut it off and said alayhim, alayhim. Unless they do that, like they'll cut it off. But otherwise, the natural pronunciation of it, and it would make the person say it in a valid way. Alayhim. Then you have ghayril maghdubi alayhim. Another ya with a sukoon before the FaatiHah. Ghayri, ghayri. So now we have the ghayn. We said it's from the middle of the throat. It's similar to what, the sound that you make, or the same place, like if you're gargling, right? You're gargling. That place, that's where the ghayn is from. Ghayri. It's not a G. It's not a ga. It's not ghayri. It's not ghayri. It's ghayri, ghayri. And then we have the ra with a sukoon with a kasra, ghayri, so broken. Then al-maghdubi, same thing, a ghayn with a sukoon. Now the ghayn is not one of the letters that has like air that comes out with it. Like for example, the ha, it comes out, the air comes out with it. Ah, that's how you say that. The ha, ah. The tha is the letter that comes, the air comes out with it. Ath, if you were to say ath, for example. As, as, us. These letters, air comes out with it. But there's certain letters, air doesn't come out with them. Like the dha, el, for example. El, for example. Like the dad, el. And also one of those letters is the ghayn. So you say al-maghdubi. You don't say al-maghdubi. Not al-maghdubi. Nothing comes out with it. You keep it in as much as you can. Even if like a little bit comes out, and that's fine, but you keep it in as much as you can. Not al-maghdubi, like some people do. Al-maghdubi, it's not like that. It's al-maghdubi, al-maghdubi. And not al-maghdubi, not al-maghdubi. Then after that you have the dad. Well, the dad is specific to the Arabic language. No other language has this letter. That's why Arabic is known as the language of the dad. So how is the dad? Easy. So easy. And this proof of the ease of the Arabic language, and as is the judgment in Islam, Arabic is the easiest language. And it is the best language. Because the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that. But so anyway, the dad, tongue. Right, they say this is the tongue, my hand is the tongue. And you have the edge of the tongue, right? The tongue is sitting in your mouth. You just let it sit in your mouth. You don't have to move your tongue to the left or to the right. You don't have to go. You don't have to do that. Tajweed is easy. And the best reciters, like the professionals, like Al-Minshawi, like Abdul Basit, when you notice, and the least movement, like Husari, the least movement of the mouth. They don't have like very animated movements of the mouth. They don't like go all over the place with their mouth because they keep the pronunciation, the articulation point, because they're all close to each other. And the Quran is the sequence of the Quran is like that. And the rules of tajweed, and they're like that, and it makes it an easy transition from letter to letter, word to word, etc. So the dad is not from the tip of the tongue. It's not like a hard D. It's not like you're saying da, da. It's not from the tip of the tongue. It's from the side, the edge. So that edge of the tongue is resting against the side of your molars. The side of your molars. Da. Da. And also the tongue itself is elevated and constricting the space once again, making it a thick letter. Da. غير المغضوب المغضوب ضوبي. That's how it should sound. Not doobie, not do, not do. Do. So it can go from the right or from the left. You can do right or left, or you can do both, depending on like how your tongue is. So people have like wide tongues. And that is for that part. Then the last part, وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ. So it has to be 6 counts. You have the dad with the shadda, so you got to do the shadda, then you have the extension. This is 6 count extension. That's the minimum. It's called med lazim. Means that in order for it to be counted that you have recited this with tajweed, you have to do it the 6 counts, the 6 elongations, no less than that. Now it's not sinful if you say, for example, وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ, just 2, it's not sinful. And it's a valid recitation, but it will not be tajweed. You won't get the merit of reciting that with tajweed. So it has to be 6 counts. Why? Because it's an extension, and after that, there's a shadda. So when there's an extension, and it's followed by a letter, a doubled letter, you have to extend it to 6. Like the word, for example, dabba. Comes with a shadda at the end, so you have to extend it for 6. And Allah Ta'ala knows best. Next class, inshallah, next week, we'll do a deep dive into that tafsir, and of course it's not going to take the whole entire session to explain FaatiHah. So then after that we'll immediately dive into Surah Al-Naba. We're going to start with Juz'u Am from the beginning, and it starts with Al-Naba and it ends with Surah Al-Nas. And Allah Ta'ala knows best. If there are any questions, you may ask. If there's anyone in the chat that has a question, you can type. Someone asked, can you count in your mind while praying? Yani the person is praying Al-FaatiHah and praying the prayer, yani Dhuhr or Asr or Maghrib or Isha, for example, and they're reciting, for example, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Or they're saying, for example, Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Or they're going to say, Wal-Dallin. So remember how we said you count with moving the finger? So this person is asking, can you count in your mind? Yeah, ideally, and you don't have to have, like let's say, a physical metric so that you can know that you did the elongation. And you would just intuitively know it. Like when you're reciting it, you know that this is the elongation. So yeah, if the person is saying, can you count in your mind? You don't have to do it, you can do it. What's best is just do it intuitively, naturally. You know that you have to go 6, so you keep on extending until, and you know that it's 6. Were there any questions over there? No. MashaAllah, is a very good question. So the extension that occurs at the end of an ayah, this is called mad arid lis-sukun. What does it mean? It means that you're stopping here, right? But the only reason that, let's say, you're stopping is because this is the end of the ayah. If you were to keep going, right, it would be, for example, Ar-Rahmanir Rahim Malik Yawmiddin Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. For example, you keep on going. But because those are the ends of the ayahs, it's recommended to stop at the end of each ayah. So now when you stop, what do you stop on? You stop on a sukun. So the rule with that is that it's your choice. You can do 2, from 2 to 6. So usually they say 2, 4, 6. But and in between 2 and 4 is 3, and in between 4 and 6 is 5. So you can do 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. So you could say Ar-Rahman Rahim, right? That's 2. You can say Ar-Rahman Rahim. That's 3. Ar-Rahman Rahim. That's 4. Ar-Rahman Rahim. That's 5. Ar-Rahman Rahim. So you can do that. You have the choice, you have the option. They'll all be tajweed. But if you're going to do, let's say, 2 or 4 or 6, then you keep it uniform. You don't do 2, for example, Ar-Rahman Rahim, and then for the next one you say Malik Yawmiddin. If you're going to choose one, you keep it uniform till the end. Is that clear? No. So it would be valid because you're allowed to go up to 6 when you stop at the end of the ayah, if there's an elongation. No. And the others? No. No. That's correct. So the inflection at the end of Nasta'een is a dhamma. Nasta'eenu. No, sahih. Afwan. طيب, any other questions? طيب, نهلل لا إله إلا الله اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم رب اغفر لي وللمؤمنين والمؤمنات وبارك الله فيكم. السلام عليكم.